Hi, my name's Danielle. I grew up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I left about a year ago, April 2022. And today I wanted to talk about information control in the church. And so to start off, just a little analogy is like imagine you're just a young little kid, and your parents, they are like from birth, you are being told about this person that you're going to marry. They have they're betrothing you to this guy that they trust and that um, they want you to get married to them, and they really think it's going to be very good for you, and you don't ever they never share with you about any other people that you're allowed to marry. They just kind of share this one guy and say that when you turn 8, you are going to marry this one guy. And you're going to have a choice to say no. You can say no to not marry him, but this is the guy that we want you to marry, and we're going to bring you to gatherings with other people, with your friends, and you're going to sing songs about this person, um, and then when you turn 8, you get to choose, if you want to marry this person. So we're not forcing you to marry them, but this is what all the adults in your life, will be so proud of you if you choose to marry this person. And you've learned so many good things about them anyway, so why would you not want to marry this person? So you turn 8, and you can choose. You can say, no, I don't want to marry this person. But you've learned good things about this person. Everybody around you, your friends have done their betrothals and all this, and so you are like, why not? So you say yes. You get betrothed to this person. You get married, and in this marriage, you promise to do what they tell you. We'll call this guy Mr. Church. So whatever Mr. Church says, you're going to do it. You're going to love other people. That's a good thing. And you really want to please Mr. Church. You want to, make him happy. And if he's not happy, you want to figure out, what are you doing wrong, that he's not happy with you. And so you're married to him and trying to just, do the right thing all the time. And one day, or he talks about he's got this journal, he's got this past, and you don't need to ever go look at his journal to learn about his past because, your parents trust him. You've always trusted. He's never done anything wrong to you. So you don't even need to look at the journal. And then one day you're like, oh, I'm gonna. You watch this documentary about marriages, and you learn about other marriages, and you learn that a healthy marriage is both partners. There's not one who controls the other, and you can when people are dating, they date multiple people before they choose who they're gonna marry, and they learn the person's backstory, everything positive and negative before they get married, and then that's what normal people do, and then you start thinking oh, I never actually really got to know the guy that I married. I knew that he was just a good person. I never got to know anybody else. And then you just start to kind of think about, what if there's more about him, and you remember the journal. You're like, oh yeah, he was talking about that journal, that I don't need to read it, but I'm like, well, maybe I do need to read this. So you go and look at his journal, and you learn that he is not Mr. Church, he's Mr. Church Jr., that he has changed his name to cover up his past, and that his past is not very good, that he has raped other people, he's lied, he's covered up things, manipulated other people, and been to jail. You learn all these things about him, and you're just kind of in shock, what? This guy I've married, and my parents trusted him, and people believe that he's Mr. Church, and you're just learning from his journal that this is not the case, and that he's just going around marrying other people's daughters and getting them to believe who he says he is. And so he comes home, and you tell him, like, you know what, I'm done. Like, I don't, like, you lied to me. You lied to my parents. You are not Mr. Church. I read your journal. So he's obviously not very happy. You leave. You tell your family, hey, like, you guys need to look into Mr. Church a little bit more. He's not who he says he is. And sorry that this is disappointing, but you really should, not trust him as much anymore. And your parents are just like, what are you talking about? They don't believe you, and they just think that you're crazy. And it actually makes them trust Mr. Church even more, to know that there's somebody that is so against them for some reason. And so then they, instead of like pulling back their trust or looking into what you're telling, like the journal that you're talking about, they instead plan to betroth their next daughter to Mr. Church. So you just are so, frustrated about all that. So yeah, that's just kind of like an analogy, and hopefully you can kind of see parallels with the church. And maybe you don't, but or your experience, maybe you don't see it that way. Like a regular current member of the church might see that as kind of like a really offensive way to look at it. But that's just like my experience now that I'm like an ex-Mormon, how I kind of see it. And my experience really was that, like, I was told very positive things about the church growing up, never was told about any other churches. Like, all I knew about other churches is that they don't have all the truth. That's what I was told. Never had the chance to even attend other churches and learn about them. And I was just told about this one person, only told positive things. Everyone wanted me to be baptized, so why not? I was baptized, and because I was baptized, I was put myself into the mindset of, okay, I gotta, you covenant when you're baptized to obey the commandments, listen to the prophet, things like that. And that, to me, I had religious OCD growing up, religious scrupulosity. And so anytime I disobeyed something, I was beating myself up. I wanted to please God, please the church, do everything I was supposed to do. And I let the church, whatever the church told me to do, or whatever I felt like God was telling me to do through the Spirit, I did it. I was obedient. And I let it control me because I thought I knew that the church was good. And I thought I knew that, that it was true, that it was everything that I knew everything about it, and I had it was everything that I thought it was. And then I, just a year ago, I learned that the church is not everything that it says it is. So that really made me take a step back of okay, what is there about the church that I don't know? And there's so much information out there, and I just started learning more and more about it. But that really led me to just say, I'm done. I don't want to be married to this Mr. Church anymore. I don't want to be a part of this church because it has not been honest to me about who it really is. Plus, I felt like the church, the truth claims that it has, doesn't really hold up to a lot of the criticisms that are out there, in my opinion. I've looked at Fair Mormon. They frame all these questions in the answers to them in faithful ways, and even looking at that, I still just don't feel like it's enough to really hold it together. So, but yeah, so I'm glad that I'm done with it and that I know more about it. So glad that finally can see more, and I don't think I know everything. I'm still learning more. But it just makes me, this whole thing, it just makes me really frustrated about seeing young kids to get baptized in the church, or even older people who get taught by the missionaries. And I was a missionary myself, and I know what I shared with people and the lessons that I taught from Preach My Gospel. I was in 2013, October 2013 through April 2015, and we did not teach about the gospel topics essays. We just taught what's in the Preach My Gospel, and I think it might touch on a few of the things, but not in detail. It's a very positive story, like the story about Joseph Smith, going to pray, is all very positive, and there's not much negative aspects to the story that we share with investigators and with the kids in primary, and then we expect them to get baptized, and we have all this love bombing going on of we're so excited for you to get baptized, so glad that you made this choice. And with young kids, time and time again, I just don't see people letting them explore other churches that are out there, other ways of thinking, and the focus from birth is that this is who you're going to marry, this is where you're going to be baptized, and that's the path that is set for you for your life. And why wouldn't a kid say yes to that? Unless they're actually more informed. And if they are more informed, maybe you share the gospel topics essays with them. Does an 8-year-old really understand polygamy and all of the problems with that? I don't know. I feel like most 8-year-olds probably are not ready to think about that or understand polygamy and the problems that go along with that. And so anyway, my opinion is that we need to let our kids know the good and the bad about who they are following and why they are following it. Why should you trust the prophets? What is the backstory behind the church? All the things that are out there. Let them go to Fair Mormon and the Gospel Topics essays, which are both faithful perspectives. It doesn't have to be CES letter, You can keep it in a faithful way, but share with them a little bit more about who Mr. Church is. What is the church all about? What is their past? Because that does affect what they are today. It affects who they are as a person or who they are as a church. And knowing who you are following, and are they being honest with you? Are they being true about who they are? And helping them to understand what is truth. They need to learn about other ideas and perspectives that are out there and determine what's true for themselves. And so it just really frustrates me to see 8-year-olds get baptized when I know that, or I'm pretty sure that they are not, they're just the same story as that I had growing up, just feeling like you're kind of betrothed to the church. And then later on down the road, they're going to find out information that they didn't know, and they're going to be angry. So if we want to stop people from, leaving the church in anger, I think a huge part of it, you're not going to fully stop that, but you really need to teach people the good and the bad about the church before they make the decision to be baptized, before they make the decision to be married. When you get married to someone, you want to know the good, bad, and the ugly about the person. And that's fair. You're covenanting with this person. You're making promises with them. You're going to be with them the rest of your life. You really need to know who this person is. And it's very manipulative to just tell one side of the story, all the positive things, and manipulate these kids into thinking that information that's out there, they're all lies, because that is not true. And you might think, oh, it's Satan, he's trying to get people to leave the church. Let your kid decide that for themselves. And information, one thing, Book of Abraham, maybe you read that information and it doesn't give you good feelings, and you might think oh, that's Satan. But the Book of Abraham, that's true, that it wasn't translated correctly, and it should give you kind of weird feelings, because that might call into question the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, and you don't like confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. Does it keeps you from thinking about things other ways. And so you really have to like be open-minded when you're searching for truth. Don't close yourself off to information. Look at information with a critical lens and decide for yourself. Let your kids decide what is true. And I currently, I just feel like we got to keep, learning about everything that's out there, and we're constantly going to be changing our worldviews, and that's okay. Like today, I think that the church is false. Tomorrow, maybe I'll learn something, and I'll believe that the church is true again. And you have to be open to different things. And I do tend to focus more on the people who have left the church and their perspective on things, but I do like to learn from other people. There's a guy named Mormonism with the Murph is on YouTube. I really like him because I really feel like he understands the same problems with the church that I do, but he has returned to the church, and I love to hear his perspective on things because it just helps me be more open-minded about it, and I think that's good. So I think that's mainly what I wanted to say about information control in the church, and hopefully we can change the narrative to be more balanced, and so that we don't keep creating these faith crises and people being angry leaving the church just because they didn't know certain information, and then that information they felt like it was kept from them. So thank you for listening to this, and yeah.